What's the family tea that you found out once you got older? I'll go first.
Oh, a moment to shine, a moment to shine. Don't worry about all this. I'm mothering right now. Okay, so my dad isn't from here. My dad is actually from Greece. Came over here, I think he was maybe 15 or 16 when he came over here. Him and my mom met a few years later. Whatever. They dated. They were married 47 years, together 50. Fast forward to, I think it was at least 30 years in, because I must have been in my 20s when this happened. But my dad ended up getting esophageal cancer. They're doing the paperwork for the insurance. There's a discrepancy in his age. Like, the date is a little off. My dad's like, don't say anything. Shh. Like, trying to this day, he's still like this. Like, don't say anything. Don't say anything. They messed up the paperwork. And my mom's like, what are you talking about? Come to find out, my dad is like, he's like 3 years younger than my mom. My mom had no idea they'd been together at least 30 something years by this time. My dad's like, shh, don't say anything. They're gonna, he thinks he's gonna get deported. I'm like, Dad, you're a U.S. citizen. You're actually an Army vet too at that. Still thinks he's gonna get deported. My mom was so mad when she found out that my dad was 3 years younger than her. She didn't even talk to him. I had to take him to chemo. It was that bad. That was the funniest joke in the whole, nobody knew. My aunt, people that were with my mom and dad, when they were 18, 19, growing up, nobody knew that my dad was younger. Come to find out too, their first date, they went to a bar or something, and he hung out on the patio. And my mom was like, that's why you didn't come in? He's like, yeah, I wasn't old enough to get in. I had to hang out on the patio. I said, didn't you know, Mom? She goes, I thought he was being cute and shy. She was pissed for a really long time. Rest easy, Mom.
What's the family tea that you found out once you got older? I'll go.
As a kid, my mama would always tell me, my daddy, cheated on her a lot. He cheated on her a lot. And that's the reason why she had packed up and moved from California to Las Vegas. Not only did she pack up and move from California to Las Vegas, but she packed up and moved from California to Las Vegas with all of her kids. I think it was 5 of us and another man. She left him for another man. When I got older, I'm 25 now. I was 24 when I found this out. My mama and my dad was having a little discussion back and forth or whatever, and he was like, girl, you left me for the next door neighbor. And I looked at her and I'm like, the next door? Mama, that's how you was doing it? Oh.
What's the family tea that you found out once you got older?
Okay, so after my mother came and died, my aunts, they put my father in a custody battle for my sister and I. We were younger back then. And when they lost the case, my aunt called me and she was like, oh, you rather live with a man that's not even your father. Your father is a policeman from Sunny Grande. And I'm like, huh? What the fuck? What? What are you telling me? And I tried to question her and she hung up the phone, We never spoke about it after. But my father, the guy that grew me up as his daughter, I don't even think that he knew there was another possibility. My aunt knew, apparently. Nobody didn't tell me until my both parents died, my mother and my father. So I'm just like, okay, I guess that's how this shit goes. Yeah, I am too big. I'm not going, to seek who is this guy from Grandy, who is this policeman that I may look like, because I don't look like nobody on my father's side of the family. I kind of resemble my mother, but that's about it. So yeah.
What's the family tea that you found out once you got older? I'll go first.
I have one. It's not like tea, drama, big dramatic, family life. Well, depending on how you look at it. Anyways, although I was raised strictly Roman Catholic through my mom's side, my entire dad's side of the family is pagan. Not only that, but it goes back generations on generations on generations. When I found that out, it made my entire life make so much more sense.
What's the family tea you found out when you were older?
Finding out my mom wasn't a virgin when she married my dad It would have been funny if she hadn't lied to me for 20 years. I grew up Catholic just like my mom, and you can spot a cradle Catholic because they're going to give you that awkward little side hug instead of hugging you front on, because abstinence is drilled so much into our brains that it goes so past clothing and just into our mannerisms and personality. So I learned what sex was in the 7th grade on the school bus right after I found out that boys have penises, so my knowledge of sex was not superb. The one time I ever saw my parents tipsy, maybe a little bit drunk, I remember my sister asking my dad if he had any regrets, and he said, "Not saving myself for your mother." And my mom said, "That's embarrassing. I'd never admit that." So for 20 years, I knew nothing, and by the time I was 20, I had been coerced into losing my virginity by my boyfriend. I had been assaulted by my boyfriend. I had been assaulted by my friends, sometimes in front of my other friends. Someone I thought was my best friend had set up myself to be raped by another friend. I'm not saying nothing bad would not have happened to me, but I blame Catholicism for most of my traumas. Because a year ago, I find out that my mom was put through a lot of similar situations as myself before she met my father. Was too embarrassed and ashamed to share the truth about life with her children to keep them in safer situations. At the end of the day, my mom and myself were both just obeying men and just not questioning anything, because we weren't ever told to question those kinds of things. It was just do what we're told, and as long as we do our part, bad things won't happen to us. So my T is that Catholicism can suck my dick.
What's the family tea you found out when you got older?
So this story is about my dad's father, my grandfather. So there's a lot of side notes, so I'm going to break them down for you. Side note number 1, my parents are divorced. Side note number 2, my mom has known my grandfather since high school, so she's had a long history with him. Okay. And side note number 3, my dad's not exactly forthcoming with a lot of things. So this story, I don't think I would have ever found out about it had my mother not said anything. So please, 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 please do not bash her. Okay. So 2 weeks before my grandfather passed away from cancer, okay, my mom was in town because it was being known throughout family that his time was coming. It was only a matter of a week, days, who knew, right? So my mom wanted to come in and say goodbye. So my mom, seeing that I am falling apart, right? Because in my eyes, my grandfather could do no wrong. This man to me was everything. In fact, I spent 2 years while he was in the hospital, every free day I had, instead of going out with my friends or, having the luxury to be able to do things I would like to do, I was in DC visiting him at the hospital, making sure he was okay. So my mom took me to a bar to try to help me decompress, and she told me all these wonderful stories about my grandfather, but she said there was something about him I didn't know that she wanted me to be aware of. So like I said, my parents are divorced, okay? They divorced when I was in my mid-20s, just like when my grandfather divorced my Nana, my dad was also in his mid-20s. And the reason why a divorce happened was after having 3 kids, my Nana exactly was not skinny. So obviously her body went through a lot of changes. My grandfather worked for the government, and so he felt the need to have someone young, skinny, beautiful, who could be a positive influence when he went to social events, you name it, right? There comes in my step-grandmother, the mistress. Yes, he had an affair, apparently. And this went on for a while until I guess he fell in love with her, fell out of love with my Nana, and decided to divorce my Nana to marry the mistress. Okay. Now, he basically started over a new life with her, and they went to adopt my other aunt, who is actually a few years younger than me. So that was the tea. Had I had not known, I think I would have been okay, but it changed some perspectives, but, I still love my grandfather, and I hope, he's doing okay wherever he's at,
What's the family tea that you found out once you got older?
I found out that I have 2 secret siblings and that I was conceived within a couple of hours of one of them being born.
Your sweet music in my ear like the marshmallow. You were wearing yellow, so I had to follow. Like the sun, you brought light to my life, a happy fellow. When I'm not with you, I know I'm in a place less than perfect. Beautiful memories we share got me feeling special. Fighting for our love every day because it's worth it. There's nothing to lose when I'm with you. You got my emotion. Even when I break your heart, you're patient. Your loving me steady on emotion. You're my ride or die. You're my ride or die. You got my emotion. Even when I break your heart, you're patient. Your loving me steady on emotion. You're my ride or die. You're my ride or die.